popped up on the as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So role play and storytelling. The place to start is definitely what do you already do? Interested to know, and because these sessions are obviously, there's some bits and pieces that I want to share with you that I think might be useful to you, whether you are working in reception, whether you're all the way through to Key Stage 3. I think everybody here is at the oldest, if you like, primary. But if there's anyone secondary, let me know, and I'll just make sure I point out a few bits that I think would be particularly useful for you as well. But much of what we're going to talk about today is really transferable just through, gentle adaptations to almost any year group, I think. You just turn things up and, dial things up, dial them down, right? So the place to start, I really want to know over the next few minutes. I'd really like you to contribute to a Padlet for me just to collect your ideas, and you can do that for the first few minutes of the session today. It's linked here. This that link should take you there. So I will put the link there into the chat as well. So if you could open that up, and I'll just give everybody a couple of minutes. What I'm really interested in, these ones here, these previous Padlets are from other sessions. So really keen to know, with regards to role play and storytelling, what stories do you tell when you're working with children? What stories do you tell? And what strategies do you think work best? So over here, we're thinking about the kinds of stories. So I'm going to be the first one we're going to look at today is the story of Bilal from Islam. Um, and in terms of, how do you do it? Like, what's your approach? Really interested to know that now. So if you can, and for those that just joined, here's the link again to the Padlet. If you can do that, and then you just hit the add comment at the bottom there, and just add anything that you find really powerful. So I'm just going to go silent for 2 minutes and just wait for some of those to come in, and we'll talk about those briefly. And then we're going to add some suggestions and thoughts. And these sessions are as much about you sharing with one another as they are about getting other bits and pieces that I can share with you too. So this is me being quiet. Let me know if you can't access it. Excellent, Samantha. Thank you very much. So Rama and Sita coming in there. Samantha, would you mind just telling us what do you do when you're teaching Rama and Sita?
Um, I use mainly, for example, like the cartoon video clips as best, really, to help children get more visual understanding than me saying it to them. I feel like with some classes, the visual representation helps better with them.
Yeah, where did you get your clips from?
YouTube mainly. I just put in Ramen Sita, the year group, on the key stage, and yeah, a load come up. I watch it first of all just to be sure,
Yeah.
but and then there's some of them like the stories of the Bible as well. They're really good.
Yes. So sorry, I should restart. So there is you can access it through YouTube, certainly. There is a series called Animated World Faiths that was made. Oh, it's got to be 15, 20 years old now, but the stories are really, really good. And that's kind of the point about a lot of the stories is that they are, they stand the test of time because they have these universal values that apply to people at all times. And I would highly recommend using a website called TrueTube. You need to register, but it's free, and then you can access all the lesson resources as well that will help you out with that. Thanks so much for that, Samantha. Okay, let's grab another one here. So, Sarah Jane, what do you tell us a little bit about Holy Week and what you do? How do you get the students to? Do you tell them the story? Do you get them to reenact it?
Yeah, do a bit of both. Work in reception. So we so like for Jesus coming in on the donkey, we'd made some palm leaves and branches and things like that prior to telling the story. One year we had like the whole cohort in the classroom and then sort of to side and then sort of acted it out with a few of the children taking part as well. And then obviously leaving the things out for them afterwards. With the Last Supper, that was quite good fun. With them retelling the story, of sort of choosing the 12 disciples and having some bread um, and ribena or blackcurrant and that for the children to drink and retelling the story there. I think it's some things lend themselves, don't they, to role play more than others. But
Yeah, absolutely. And you're talking, you're referencing lots of senses there as well, aren't you? You've got you're giving them something physical to do. They are the idea about the bread and breaking bread, and that food and sharing food is present in all faiths and all cultures and throughout history, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. And obviously, I
Brilliant.
had the making the donkey noise and things like that. The clip off of the donkey when Jesus was going.
Excellent. Yeah, and it should be fun, shouldn't it? There should be some fun elements there. There's definitely times when you need to think about how do you also kind of make that respectful. And whether
Yeah,
you're doing role play, whatever you're doing in role play, you might be role playing something about homelessness, and you would think about how you treat people with respect in those situations as well. Fantastic. Thank you. If you wouldn't mind, there's a second Padlet there, the role play telling strategies. So, what strategies work for you? So, we've had that idea about food, about the senses being engaged, and sometimes children making those props. Do they make the palm leaves for you, Sarah? They do. Brilliant. So that's really powerful as well. If you know that you're building up to that story, you're thinking hard about quite a lot of elements in the build up to it by making those things. Thank you. That's a really good start. Please do continue to add anything there that you think is useful and interesting, and particularly the strategies. I'm really interested to know the strategies you use. So to what extent do you give the children license to play with the, do they tell the story exactly as was? Do you use holy text scriptures to get them to use that, or do you adapt the language? So those things are all quite interesting to think about. So for anyone that's just joined, in the chat, I've just put the two things that I really want you to have access to. And we've just got one more person has joined, so I'll put that again. So just really want you to make sure that you register your attendance with that first link there. Using if you can't, it's pretty straightforward to work out. So do what you can with that for me. And the link below is the website that we're going to be using to share everything today. So do continue to contribute to those Padlets, particularly the strategies. We're going to talk about strategies a little bit later. So this website, as I said, we've got the previous things that we've done. You can also find on this site from the homepage lots of resources. So today we're going to talk about various stories, but you can find some good links to. There are definitely story videos in each of these. And there are all kinds of other bits that are useful to you. The artifact boxes that we're developing. We've got this. I'm going to a day up in Saffron Walden tomorrow to see a Sikhism day at a school, and we've got a representative from Sacre coming along. She's bringing some artifacts for Sikhism, and so we're building a Sikhism box. We've got a Judaism box which you can borrow, and all of that information about how to do that and what's in the box and so on is on this page here, and some testimonials and so on. So you keep an eye out for that. So today, okay. So I'm gonna start by just pointing out something that I think is really useful. I use AI quite a lot, especially when dealing with big amounts of information. And the Essex Agreed syllabus could certainly be seen as a big amount of information. And so what I did for today, and you might find this useful, you can just click on this document, it'll open up for you. But what I did was I asked AI to come up with 10 stories for each religion. And then what I asked to do was to give me the key theme that features in that story, and the disciplinary lens. I'll talk about that in a bit. And a big question that is tied to the Essex Agreed syllabus. And one of what that means is that, and I'll just zoom in a little bit for you there. So I can see how, if I sort it by, in this case, I'm going to go sort it by question. It tells me if I'm interested in how people treat one another and why. I can see that I've got some good stories from Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, that might support me in order to explore that area, because I think it's really powerful when your storytelling and your role play show parallels between different approaches from different religions. So I've cross-referenced it also with Key Stage 1, 2, and 3 expectations. And so you can see how that might develop over years. But I just wanted to pull that together to show firstly how easy it is, but also to highlight that there are lots of stories in from every religion. And here are just 10 from each. But you could use this document to get you started, but you could use this too if you're working in a school that has a curriculum that you can download and upload to AI to interrogate and cross-reference with the agreed syllabus. That could be a really powerful thing to do, especially if you're new to if you have responsibility for RE. Something like some tips and tricks like this can be useful for mapping. So I wanted to point that out to you. And if you're thinking about telling any stories from different religions, then then by all means dip into that. You might find that useful. So what I want to do today is I want to tell you the story of Bilal, and I've made it very brief. And we're going to look at it in a little bit more detail a little bit later on. But what I want you to do, whilst I'm reading this to you, I want you to think really hard about how you engage whilst I'm speaking. Okay, so I want you to kind of be a bit of meta reflection there and think about how it makes you feel. So here comes the story. A long time ago, in the city of Mecca, there lived a man named Bilal. Bilal believed in Allah, the one God. He believed that all people were equal and that God cared for every human being. But Bilal was not free. He was a slave, owned by a man who treated him cruelly and tried to force him to give up his faith. When Bilal refused to stop believing in Allah, he was punished. He was taken out into the hot desert where the sun burned the sand beneath him. A heavy stone was placed on his chest, and he was told that the pain would only stop if he gave up his belief. But Bilal did not give up. Even in pain, even when he was afraid, Bilal kept repeating the same words again and again. One God, one God. His faith was stronger than his fear. A man named Abu Bakr saw what was happening and knew it was wrong. He stepped in and paid for Bilal's freedom. At last, Bilal was no longer a slave. He was free to live, to speak, and to believe. The Prophet Muhammad recognized Bilal's strength and faith. He chose Bilal for a special role in the growing Muslim community. Bilal became the first muezzin, the person chosen to call people to prayer. From a high place, Bilal's voice rang out across the city, calling people to remember God and to come together in prayer. Muslims remember Bilal's story because it teaches them that all people are equal, that faith can give strength in times of suffering, and that kindness and justice matter. Bilal's life shows that no one should be treated as less than another, and that belief can help people stand firm, even in the hardest moments. So, I want you to think really hard about how you were engaged in the story, what engaged you, and how it made you think, or what it made you think or feel. So, just give you a moment to think. I'd just like to call on anybody just to share their response to that. Would anyone like to jump in and share?
I have to be honest, it's not a story I'd heard before, so I was interested to hear what happened. And I was listening to, I suppose, your tone of voice in how you were saying the things to see what was going to happen, and sort of building up the tension of what's going to happen.
Thank you. That's really, and I think that the point that you hadn't heard it before is quite important because that makes you a bit more curious. Perhaps when people hear the same story again and again, they switch off. And that's maybe where stories that give familiar values but from different religions or that are new can be relevant. And I love that you were listening to hear where the story was going. Right, so thank you. And feel free to share in the chat as well. So Michelle, thank you. How sad that we haven't really come that far. That's really interesting. Michelle, would you mind just unpicking that a little bit for me?
I'm not sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you
I
clearly.
can't get my camera on. Well, just that, there are people still out there that think it's okay to persecute people for their beliefs. And this is how many hundreds of years old, and it still goes on today.
Yes, so we've got the stories that underpin all religions are stories which require very little updating to make them modern day. So there's some really good ways to make connections to things that we're still experiencing today. And there's discussion that there's big philosophical questions there, aren't there, about, and social questions about humanity, about human morality and development and values. Brilliant. And I wonder, when you were, when you were listening, how were you listening? What was your body doing? There are when we use storytelling with children, we want them to respond by listening, but actually we can try and model and teach them to listen with their whole body. Sometimes when we're you think about when you're incensed by something on television, and you have a physical reaction to it, don't you? And if we get our storytelling right, I think that we can capture that. So this story ties very nicely with the Essex Agreed syllabus, which is linked here. I just wanted to always kind of keep on dropping that in there, and particularly with the emphasis on inquiry, lived religion, disciplinary thinking, and progression. So thinking about particular themes that we're going to look at in a moment, but inquiring into what did it feel like to be Bilal in this circumstance? So in terms of storytelling and drama, well, it's there's plenty of good evidence out there, but the Ofsted review into RE highlighted the importance of drama and storytelling for making sense of religious traditions and of the world, but also in eliciting a personal response and disciplinary knowledge, so knowledge within the particular religious disciplines. And these are the three lenses that we encourage within the RE world. And we can see in that story, just take a moment to think, the theological, philosophical, and human and social science dimensions are quite clear in there. So I wonder, what beliefs do you see taught through that story? Well, there's something about unwavering faith, isn't there? There's some philosophical ones about, what would make you abandon your beliefs, perhaps. There's something about the treatment of other humans in there, and what we're seeing. Certainly some clear links to from Michelle's point there, that our human and social sciences. And when we try and include these lenses in our storytelling, it becomes a lot richer. So it's worth thinking about, when you're telling a story, how are those themes developing? And if you're having children engage with the story, the point of the story, then that can be a powerful way of doing that. So I'm going to get you to have a look in a moment at some storytelling ideas. And just for anyone that joined in the last few minutes, there's the link again to the website that I'm showing you at the moment, and that has everything for today, and also to an attendance register, if I could ask you to please complete that. So the philosophy that underpins storytelling and role play, as I've said already, the stories are internal to religions. They're not just add-ons in order to talk about the religion. They're key. They're at the absolute foundation of all faiths. So I think storytelling can be a brilliant way to start off learning about any faith. And I think there's a really important disclaimer here, that engaging with role play is not pretending to be religious. I know that people can be wary of using role play and performing role plays that are from religious traditions, because the children are pretending to be part of that faith, which could be perceived as disrespectful or against the wish of their parents, and so on. So there are ways that we can make sure that is not the case, and really sometimes by telling the children or telling the parents that is not what is happening here. I suppose there are some exceptions to that. Say, for example, in Islam, they never depict the Prophet Muhammad, so you wouldn't have a child pretending to be Muhammad. That would be considered problematic. But in all other generally in all other faiths, there really isn't a problem there. And again, thanks to Claire's just joined. Claire, there's the register and the link to the website I'm using today. If you could have open up both of those, that'd be great. So there's some different strategies for drama that may be to some extent new. Embodied listening is about, I mentioned that a moment ago, about listening with your whole body. So really engaging the whole body when listening, and perhaps encouraging children to respond physically to what they're hearing and thinking about. I mean, for any one of these, really, a simple Google search will bring out kind of how do you go about doing that, and they might tie nicely to some of the ideas I'm going to get you to have a look at a moment in a moment. So in embodied listening, they might be showing their understanding through how they're holding themselves, where their breath what their breath is doing, their eye focus, and allowing themselves to respond physically, I think can be really powerful to model that. Structured simulation is where you're really kind of planning and guiding the activity. So you're not really giving much in terms of freedom. And that can be quite useful, could be quite a safe way of doing drama and role play and story retelling, because you're telling the children exactly what you want them to do. So if you're, being wary about being respectful, for instance, then that might be something. Or if you're trying to teach it, you're trying to, because sometimes if you give children too much license, then it moves away from the point of the story. So that might be a strategy that works for you. Respectful enactment is about really thinking hard about the characters, what they might be feeling. I gave that example of a role play about homelessness, for example. So I think may have encountered situations where you get a child to pretend to be X and they react in a kind of an overacted or stereotypical way that actually is you could say disrespectful. So just there's some thoughts that you might explore there. If you've got I think children are, well, I mean, you decide the age that's going to work for your children, but freeze frame is really powerful. Does anyone ever use freeze frame? Is that familiar? Where you say freeze a point in a story, and you have them explain what they're thinking, feeling, or doing at that point. So if you gave them a story and you got them to act something out, and then you say freeze, and then you're asking what the characters might be doing, saying, thinking, feeling. Hot seating, where people are in character. And they're being quizzed by other members of the students. That's the students, and that can be really powerful, I think. So you're kind of embodying. You maybe you've got children sitting on a chair and they're pretending to be those characters. The other children can ask them questions. That could be really good. I love a conscience alley with older children, where you might form an alleyway of people, and have somebody who's your character move through this alleyway, and they would be given a dilemma. So that there's some kind of a problem, usually a moral dilemma. You can tie those very easily to different religions, and then the other children can suggest to them the different thoughts they might be having. So it's about conflict within a dilemma. Certainly for older children, that could be really powerful. So some obvious links to good learning in RE. I won't labour those. What I want to do now then is give you a few minutes to have a look at this list of storytelling ideas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw you into a few breakout rooms. Just going to give it 5 minutes. Just gives you somebody to talk to about these different storytelling ideas. So you can click on that and open it up. I'll also put the link in the chat for you as well. And what I'm really interested in is having a look and maybe spotting anything that you do already, or anything that you think is really interesting, or anything that you think, oh no, I don't think I'd do that. I don't think I'd do that. Okay, we're just going to give it 5 minutes in breakout rooms for you to have a chat about that. And then we'll regroup, and I want to show you a really good video, or really interesting video of somebody doing some role play. So right. Here come those, just 4 breakout rooms. Should be enough people who've got mics and cameras working to have a chat whilst you do that. See you in a minute. Should be being invited to join the room now. Oh yeah. Are you able to join the room? Should be inviting you to do that. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. So, just keen to know anything that you think you'd really like to try out, anything you already do, anything you want to avoid. If you'd like to just jump in there with something that they thought, oh, yeah, I'd like to give that a go.
Someone in our group mentioned about having an artifact table, and I thought that
Oh,
was quite
yeah.
a good idea. And having things on display because we were saying a lot of people have got like artifacts, but they're not always using them. And then the children can go and explore them, and if they've been shown how to use them, maybe through obviously the role play, and then a table is set up with them on, they can then go and access them independently and have more of an idea on obviously what everything is, rather than not knowing what things are and just being left. So it's nice to sort of demonstrate with them and then leave a nice table out for the children to explore.
Yeah, brilliant. I think that having whenever you've got to talk or do something that's challenging, particularly drama, having a prop is really powerful. Having something that you can use to illustrate a point in a story is really powerful. There, you're supporting children's developing their understanding. You're helping create those kind of mental anchor points, seeing the difference between different faiths, and having an artifact table that can exist for a period of time throughout a unit of learning can be really, really powerful. And that's where the artifact boxes might come in. Um, Brilliant. Thank you very much. Does anyone else want to just share something they thought that might be really good practice? Be bold.
I quite like the one sentence at a time, like retelling a story, like building on each other's answers. I feel like that's really like low pressure.
Hmm.
For
And
some of
brilliant. And I think that can result in children having to really listen hard to one another as well.
Yeah.
I think that's certainly a core part of what's going to make effective drama and storytelling. Anything else anybody like the look of? Or that you do already?
The idea of story mapping looks good as well. Again, EYFS, sort of anything visual, and that.
Yeah.
But the idea of doing it even this made me think, oh, could I have done something in the corridor or something with the children? Against different ways of portraying the story and giving them that opportunity to explore and ask questions and things. That's a really good idea.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, I mean, anything again that creates that kind of visual anchor point, I think could be really, really powerful. Okay, I'd like to, well, hopefully there was something that you saw there that either made you feel good about what you're already doing, or that you thought you could give a go of, and any of those could be taken in any direction you like, but just a good range of ideas. So I would like to show you a example from the NATRE, National Association for Teachers of Religious Education site. They commissioned some videos some years ago called A Good Learning in RE. And this is a video from that set, which you can find very easily. The link is here. Here is the lesson background, plan, resources, and so on to go with it. So you can click on that and open that up if you like. But we're thinking here about how storytelling can be really active without acting, that embodied listening. We're talking about props and space and voice, and drawing out meaning after the story as well. So we're going to see a lesson and the follow-up to that. And I'd like you to look out for, where do you see good theology? So learning about religion, key terminology, and so on. Do we see some philosophy? Do we see some concepts of big ideas? In this one, we're going to see some freedom, fairness, power, and the human and social learning as well. So there's definitely some opportunities to look inwards as well here. So we just zoom in.
Religious stories carry spiritual meanings. In this good RE lesson,
can I just check you can hear that all right? Yeah, thank you.
Infants get actively involved in Muslim storytelling. They're already familiar with more than one religion.
Today's faith story. Well, it's not a Hindu faith story. It's not a Christian faith story. Who recognises that? Jocelyn. Islam, yes, it's from the Islam faith long ago in the hot desert land called Arabia. There lived two men. Now, these two men lived in a city, and the city was in the desert, surrounded by desert. And they were both very, very rich. Now, one was called Abu Bakr, and the other is called Amaya. Now, James is already dressed as Amaya, so I think we'll keep him as Amaya. And I think, Joe, would you like to be Abu Bakr? So how would you like to wear that, Joe? Okay, all right then. So you sit there. You might need to move around. So Abu Bakr and Amaya. Now, Abu Bakr was very kind man. And he was very good. What sort of face would you give for a very kind person? Can you show me on your face? Looking very kind, smiling and thoughtful. But Amaya was very mean and cruel. Oh, what sort of face would you give for a mean, cruel face? Oh, Charlie, yes, absolutely. Well done. Now, Abu Bakr, he spent all his money helping other people. You were very kind. You went around helping other people, making sure they had everything they need. But Amaya kept all his money to himself. Oh, show me. Scoop up your money and you're keeping it all to yourself. Okay. Now, Amaya, he owned houses and land and camels, and he also owned lots of slaves. Now, who can tell me what a slave is? Milo. Yes, are they paid, the slaves? Are they given money? No. Now, one of his slaves was a man called Bilal. Can you manage that, or do you want me to do it? One day, Amaya gave Bilal a whip. He stood up and he gave Bilal a whip and he said, "Go and whip that slave over there." Me? He keeps shouting, "There is only one God," and there isn't. He keeps saying, "Everyone's important," and that's not true. So Bilal went across to the slave. "Stand up, slave." Bilal said, "I can't do this. I cannot whip him." So look at the slave and shake your head. You can't whip him. And he put the whip down. And he turned. Bilal had disobeyed Amaya. Because Bilal began to believe that the slave was right. He thought, I think he's right. There is only one God. And so Bilal began to say, "One God, only one God." By now, Amaya was furious. Stand up and show us you are absolutely furious. Okay. Now, Amaya was so angry that he ordered some of the other slaves to make Bilal lie down on the sand in the very, very hot sun. And he tied rope to his hands and his ankles and he laid them down. And in the ropes, he banged the pegs in to keep Bilal still. So could you pretend you're banging some pegs in there for me, Scarlett and Olivier and Milo? Imagine Bilal there on the ground, pegged out, with that sun coming down. Even though Bilal could hardly breathe, he still whispered. this is where Abu Bakr comes in. So up you get Abu Bakr. So Abu Bakr comes along and he sees Bilal. He couldn't believe that anybody could possibly treat another person like that. What is going on? He said to Amaya. No one, not even a slave, deserves to be treated like that.
Bilal was my slave.
I will do whatever I like with him.
I will do whatever I like with him.
If he stops believing in one God, I will let him go. Abu Bakr then said, but I believe in one God as well. Go on, you can buy Bilal from me. And that is exactly what Abu Bakr did. And he very gently lifted the stone off his chest and very gently lifted Bilal up. What do you think he gave him as his first possible drink? Water. So he gave him some water. Then they said, we think we ought to build a place of worship. Can anyone remember what a Muslim place of worship is called? A mosque. Well done. They decided they were going to build a mosque. And when they built the mosque, they said, how are we going to tell everyone when it's time to say prayers? Shall we ring a bell? Can they ring a bell? No, they decided not. They didn't want a bell. Shall we blow a trumpet? They said. Shall we bang a drum? They said. No, they decided. What we need is somebody, we're going to use a human voice who can call out to everyone, it's time to pray. Who do you think they chose? What was he called? Can you remember? Bilal. And after that, they decided that they would then, every time that it was time for prayers, they would have somebody calling people to prayer. We all know what a jigsaw puzzle is. We've made a puzzle of this story, but it has no people in it because part of the Muslim belief and the Muslim faith is that you don't draw particularly the holy people. So there are no people in it, but there's a scene and there are objects from the story. There are 6 puzzle pieces in this classroom that I've hidden. I wonder if you could find them and bring them to the carpet. So very sensibly, just go around and when you find a piece, come back to the carpet. Now, there's our picture. What can you see there that was in the story? There's the sun. What else can you see, Beth? The big heavy rocks. The rope, yes. What else? What's down in the bottom corner here? Why would there be brushes? That's right. So that reminds us of the jobs that the slaves had to do. We're going to work a bit like a puzzle. We're all going to do different activities, but all those things are going to come together to help us understand more about the Muslim faith and understand that story really well.
The story, the jigsaw, and the children's group activities build up understanding of the religion naturally. The teacher unfolds the lesson in 3 stages. Storytelling leads on to purposeful teamwork, which leads to the 5 creative activities. The teacher has planned the learning really carefully.
John, is this your tower? So where's Bilal going to stand? To make sure everybody in the city can hear him. Right at the top.
My Bilal's up here. Look at my Bilal.
Milo, John's trying to talk to you. So, John, what would Bilal call out? Pretend you leave him there so it doesn't fall. It's time to pray. Now, Emma, so press that up to record. Okay, then press, that's it, then press one of those.
It's playtime now.
Press on, put it on play. Press again. Well done. Okay, so that's yours. And we've got Olivier saying there is only one God. Now think about, what would you say if you were the person calling someone to prayer? I want to say it in a big voice then. It is time to pray. That's a really good one. Can you shout it to Emma? Right, do you think you can write it down and then you could record it? Wait, what's Bilal feeling there? Confused. So tell me about that. What have you done there to show it's confusing?
Brain's going all over the place.
His brain's going all over the place. It's absolutely, I'm sure he is feeling very confused, isn't he? I think that's a really good bit of feeling there. Gregory, what about you? That's a confused as well, so all over the place. What about Dylan? Relieved. Why is he feeling relieved, Dylan?
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. So did anyone have any thoughts about that video? Anything you thought, oh, I could definitely give that a go? Anything that you noticed about good practice on behalf of the teacher? Anything in terms of student responses that you thought was interesting? Any thoughts maybe about the theology, philosophy, and social sciences that you were seeing embedded there? About the follow-up activity, perhaps?
The teacher was really good at keeping them all involved, so they all felt part of it.
Yeah, their students are really active without acting, right? In the case of many in the circle, they're all embodying that. There's physical responses. Thank you very much, Michelle. Anything else anyone noticed that was interesting?
I guess with the about the philosophy, I can't say the words, but about the freedom of the fairness, shall I say? I mean, you could see in their faces when they talked about whipping, using the whip and things like that. You could see as it scanned around on their faces that they were like, "Oh, no, that's not right," and they're sort of so that understanding, isn't it? So they were following the story and understanding the story, and
Yeah, absolutely. And the teacher encouraged that visual, that kind of facial response as well, didn't she? She asked them, what does a an angry face look like, and so on. Yeah. And Lakshmi, thank you. The puzzle activity after the story helped them reconstruct their learning, their processing, aren't they? Their recalling, and the fact that it was a hidden, the bits were hidden. That's getting them to think about what they're looking for. What might they, how might they know that that was from the story, and so on. Good, good. Okay, so this series of videos, there's several others out there, and they each come with very detailed background and resources that you can make use of. That's quite a nice series. There's a series for early years Key Stage 1, early years into Key Stage 1 as well, that were commissioned by the BBC, that I've got some links to that I'll point you at as well. So I think I might just sort of fast forward to that in the interests of time, but just worth thinking here about, what might you be doing at different stages when you're thinking about role play and storytelling. So what might that look like, and how might that progress? I think it's interesting to think about seasonal. When do you tell these stories? Try and make them tied to what's going on, and to support you in that, the SHAP calendar is really, really good. You can find it here. You can £2 gives you a digital one, but for a mere £6 would get you a nice A2 sized calendar that has all the events throughout the year, and that's a really good way that give you your stories to use effectively. It's a nice one to go on the wall to kind of be a constant reminder. These are some approaches that can work well, I think, at these different stages. Obviously, depends. All just depends upon your audience. These the lenses that I think can work quite well. But again, it all depends on how you want to frame it, right? You can make the story do what you want it to do. I mentioned earlier TrueTube, so here are two interesting approaches. So this is this one here, and if you want to, might just take you over there in a moment. But so TrueTube, they will release materials and videos in line with, you know, what's going on in the calendar, if you like. So this is TrueTube here. I'll just put a link there in the chat. Remember, I said that you can register for free, and that'll give you the lesson resources and so on. So here you can see religions along the top here. We've got age ranges, so you can select there. And I think you'll find these to be really, really high quality resources. They've won a lot of awards, and resource their videos really, really well. They do a lot of work with individual people. So you'll see, you know, there's cartoons, but there's a lot of humans as well. And that, I think we had that point right at the beginning about how valuable it is, or how useful it is to hear from the voices of people who are part of that faith group. So I think that this is certainly a favorite website from my perspective. So the other things I wanted to point you towards, I mentioned the artifact boxes. So we've talked about artifacts today and how powerful that can be when building a role play, a story. And you can book those. You can book the video. There's Judaism ones are bookable at the moment. The others we're growing, but feel free to apply some pressure TV, or I can point you towards where you might find some good resources. And if you follow this link here, will take you to. Oh, actually, it's probably better to go in this way. So, if you go from the home page here to any of these. So let's say that you wanted to do some Buddhism storytelling. These slides, I've got these for each faith. These will give you some good suggestions. So I'll just open that up briefly. And I mentioned the animated world faiths earlier. That's really powerful, I think. And here was for Key Stage 1. Let's go back a bit. Oops. So for Key Stage 1, some really good short animations here, and they all come with lesson plans to go with them. So I think you might find those really useful. And these sets of slides we've built for each religion, and they have things that would be useful for a range of ages. They point you towards the places to go to for good resources, and CPD, and also where you can get visits and visitors for any religion that you're interested in developing further. So recommended stories, other good videos, and links to the agreed syllabus as well. So if there's anything there that might be useful, that you're thinking about planning, that might be useful to you. The other thing that we're looking to do, if this applies to you in your context, is that we're looking to support people going through the RE quality mark. So that's at the bottom here, and that's an example of the criteria. So if you think that practice at your school is pretty good, or your whatever context you're in, then it might be that I can help support you going through the RE quality mark. We've got about 5 schools working towards it. We've got our first school, Lions Hall, got it was it confirmed in November? Drawing, yes. So they got the gold award, which is great. That's our first Essex school with a gold award, and we're looking to support some more this year. So if you're interested in a chat about that, then let me know. So it's gonna draw to a close in just a moment. But if you have any questions that you'd like answers to, then now would be a good time to ask them. But what I would say is that if you can't see on here, thanks everybody who's done that register for me. But I think I've got fewer people marked as a yes, if you like, than I've got actually in the meeting at the moment. So if maybe you joined late and didn't get that link, if you could open that up and just make sure it says yes next to your name. And if there's 3 of you have joined on one link today, it would be helpful to know that, if you wouldn't mind putting those details below. If you want to receive emails from me giving you suggestions of things that I think are good, then if you don't already get those emails, then pop your email address on the side here. That would be really helpful. I'll just move that out of the way. And I reckon that is everything that I wanted to cover today. So I'll just open it up. Has anyone got any questions or thoughts or reflections or anything they'd like to ask or share before we draw to a close today? All right. Well, what is it's really useful for me to get any feedback from you. And although you will receive an email address from the authority asking for that, if there's anything that you want to communicate directly to me, you could, put it in the chat or tell me now. Or if there's anything that you are looking for, that you'd particularly value some training or some guidance, some suggestions, some thoughts on, then please do let me know, and I'll get that to you. I'll just put my email address into the chat as well in case you don't have that. So if there's anything that I can help you with, please do let me know. And otherwise, have a lovely evening. And thanks so much for being here today. It's really appreciated. Thanks very much.
Ben,
Yes.
I don't know how to click on the yes. The first time I tried, I couldn't see my name. Now
Oh,
I can
okay.
see it and I can't click yes.
Okay. So I'll just add that for you. I'm sorry, it's not displaying your name. What's your name?
Caroline Tozer.
Oh, sorry. Hiya, Caroline.
Hi.
You're very dark today.
Oh, sorry,
It's
my
good.
lamp's over there. I thought it was going to be brighter.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, good. I've added you on there.
Thank you.
That's great. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.